There were 338 nominees, but in the end, the Nobel Peace Prize went to María Corina Machado, known as Venezuela's Iron Lady. She's recognized for her decades-long fight against authoritarianism and for democracy. Amid threats to her life, she has been living in hiding the past year, and she becomes the 20th woman to be awarded the prize. Here's the announcement.
The Norwegian Nobel Committee has decided to award the Nobel Peace Prize for 2025 to María Corina Machado. She is receiving the Nobel Peace Prize for her tireless work promoting democratic rights for the people of Venezuela and for her struggle to achieve a just and peaceful transition from dictatorship to democracy.
Joining us from London is Christopher Sabatini, Senior Research Fellow for Latin America, the U.S. and the Americas program at Chatham House. Hello to you, Christopher. Thank you for speaking to Paris Direct. What did you make of the decision to give it to Machado?
I think it's a surprise. One could argue it's long overdue, not necessarily to María Corina, but it's a long overdue recognition of the dire conditions in Venezuela. And I think in many ways it reflects María Corina Machado's bravery in the last year and a half. There were elections last year in July 28th, 2024, and before which they held a primary, nationwide primary among the opposition. She was selected overwhelmingly with 90% of the vote to be the candidate. Shortly after she was selected, the Supreme Court, which is basically controlled by the government of Nicolás Maduro, disqualified her, but she continued to battle on, threw her weight behind a stand-in candidate. Her supporters were arrested, jailed, had to flee the country. In some cases had to hide in embassies. So I think this is very important, and it's a good moment for the international community to remobilize around the dire situation in Venezuela. And this gives, if you will, the repression and the difficult situation in Venezuela a human face and someone who's been long associated with the fight for electoral and democratic rights.
Yeah, and I'm curious what the implications are. Will this put more pressure on the Maduro regime or on Machado herself?
Well, she's in hiding, as your very good report just indicated. We really don't know. The Maduro government always reacts in very surprising ways. For example, when they stole the election last year, they refused to turn over any of the ballots that would have supposedly indicated their victory, although opposition candidates had gathered the ballots and demonstrated that Edmundo Gonzalez, who was standing in for María Corina Machado, had actually won. And then they unleashed this wave of repression. They really seem to be immune and impervious to any form of international pressure. In this case, they may respond with more repression. But what's also interesting in all of this is just off the coast of Venezuela right now, U.S. President Donald Trump, who also, of course, wanted the Nobel Peace Prize, has parked 6 boats, naval boats, a nuclear submarine, and about 10 F-35s, and has targeted Nicolás Maduro and his inner circle as narco-terrorists, and has become quite brazen in saying that his plan is to take them out. So we'll see this interplay between international legitimacy and peace and the issue of Trump threatening the inner circle off the coast. It could either provoke a more hardened response by Maduro, or it could provoke some response within his inner circle to say, okay, enough is enough. We can't take this anymore, and remove him and seek some form of a democratic transition.
Yeah, and every year there's no shortage of qualified candidates to win this prize. Over 300 nominees, but there's so much conflict and war going on right now. There are so many concerns about authoritarianism. We heard that in the announcement. Who else do you think was deserving of this prize? Was there anyone in particular you would have liked to have seen pick it up?
Well, I focused on Latin America. So anytime a Latin American leader in defending human rights and democracy gets the award, I think that's very positive. I think they're very strong activists and Democrats advocating for peace in Ukraine, for example, and also in Russia, for example, as well, which could have increased pressure. I think some of the people that are advocating for humanitarian assistance in Gaza, particularly in the UN and others, were deserving of this prize. And those are major conflicts. They're getting a lot of news attention. And again, perhaps betraying my bias in focusing on Latin America, I think Venezuela hasn't gotten the attention it needed. It needed for a long time a real personality on which to sort of hang the aspirations of the international community and the Venezuelan people. They had that. And I think this is welcome. And in part, Venezuela is emblematic of the overall backsliding of democracy in the region. Nicolás Maduro and his predecessor, Hugo Chávez, really followed the autocrat's playbook page by page, in some ways similar to what Donald Trump is doing in the United States, packing the Supreme Court, shutting down the independent media, extending executive power, politicizing the military. This is really a signal not just for Venezuelan people, but for other citizens living under backsliding democracies, whether in El Salvador, in Belarus, Russia, elsewhere. So it's a powerful message about the importance of democracy and human rights in creating and maintaining peace.
Yeah, the White House reacting after Machado won the prize, saying the Nobel Committee places politics over peace. Just curious, Christopher, if Donald Trump brings his transactional diplomacy to South America, do you think that'll help improve things in Venezuela or not?
That's a tough question. I think right now, frankly, the mobilization of the naval assets to off the coast of Venezuela with 6,000 plus naval personnel and Air Force personnel, it won't be easy. The truth is the Maduro government and his predecessor, Hugo Chávez, has been in power for more than 20 years. They've thoroughly corrupted and politicized the military. They've allowed private militias and narcotics networks to dominate in rural areas, including in the government itself. This will not be an easy task of promoting a democratic transition. This is not Eastern Europe, say, in 1989. This is a thoroughly corrupted and hollowed out government. So the processes of change are going to be much more complicated. It's not going to just require taking out a few leaders, as Trump has indicated, or rattling a few of the inner circle to do something. It's going to be a very complicated process. And quite frankly, I don't know if the Trump administration has the stomach to commit U.S. resources, because this won't be a transactional in and out sort of endeavor, as he's claimed he's conducted in other places that resolve peace, whether in Pakistan, India, now Gaza. We hope that's the case in that case as well. We'll have to see, but this is not going to be an easy case for that transactional approach that you just mentioned.
Indeed. Christopher, thank you very much for your time. Christopher Sabatini joining us from London.